is that Karrigan has 25 lands.
Merrian has 26.
He has 26.
Which is way better.
Yeah, so,
it might not sound like it's a big deal.
It's
but
a big deal.
In these matchups, making your land drops is everything. And there you see the beastly animal and also a penguin.
Yes. You have a bearded warrior and a young man in a penguin outfit. This is magic all the way right here. This is what I love.
You know, if I was showing somebody who didn't know Magic a match to sort of introduce them to the community, I wouldn't. No, this wouldn't be it.
You got AJ Karrigan on your right, Ross Merrian on your left.
The bow tie is really what sells me on it. It's not just a penguin. It's a like proper, you know, gentlemanly penguin.
Yeah, so I mean, we saw AJ in this outfit a little bit earlier, walking around. It's much better when he's sitting down. Actually,
it is.
Because you can't see like the shorts when he's walking around or anything, or the shoes. But now you just get a good look at the bow tie and the hat, and he's got the guild pins on. He did not have those at the beginning of the day.
Wait, but that's his skin. Penguins don't wear shirts.
Oh, so that probably hurts.
That probably hurts a lot.
That's.
We might see some blood.
Sacrifices have been made. As it looks like we'll see if both players are going to keep their set or not, but this is going to be kind of a long, drawn-out game, I would like to assume. We're going to see a lot of back and forth here. We're probably going to see Aetherlings taking it down.
I was going to say, it's definitely going to be long and drawn out because it is a Sphinx's Revelation mirror, and there is a lot of removal and counter magic and stuff. But once one player gets an advantage, the game actually ends fairly quickly. These matchups used to, even once a player got the advantage and was like 99% to win, the game still took like 14 more turns.
Yeah.
Now it takes like 4 more turns.
So we're going to see a Think Twice here from AJ as the first spell. He's going to cycle, get a little velocity, play a Steam Fence untapped, and let's see if he's going to have any land to play, or he's just going to, okay, so he's going to flashback Think Twice next turn.
Yep.
But Merriam just starting off with kind of a slower draw. He's got those buddy lands, but no Steam Vents or anything to go along with them.
He just peeled that island, which is actually pretty good. Having your lands come into play untapped is really important. And when you're paying 2, like, every turn to potentially play something that you might not end up playing, like a counter they might not play into, or a Restoration Angel you might not want to expose, then like not only are you turning parts of your hand face up, you're also just taking unnecessary damage.
Yeah. Augur Bolt is going to reveal Searing Spear. Karrigan's going to tap 2 mana on his turn. Here's his Augur Bolt. Let's see what he can find. Now that is more like it with Augur on SCG Live. Right to the bottom.
There was a baseball game for the Super Nintendo where whenever you like swung and missed, the commentator goes, "I could feel the breeze from here." Or like he just had those little sayings. I'm just gonna use those every time the Augur misses.
Perfect. Perfect. So you'll be using them a lot then.
Yes.
As Karrigan's gonna play a land, he's gonna pass it back. Merriam's gonna cast a Think Twice on the end of Karrigan's turn.
Time spiral Think Twice.
Yeah, draws a Sphinx's Revelation there.
While it is, sort of the one of the key cards, the crux card, far more important than the Revelation itself is being able to make the land drops. Because you can draw the Revelation later, but you can't draw 4 land drops.
Yes.
In one turn. So, but he does make his land drop, and it looks like he has another in hand. Both players still cycling a bunch. Searing Spear before, while Resto Angel isn't a possibility. Flashing back to Think Twice. Once again, both players just really looking to hit their land drops. That is the phase of the game that we're in, and we're going to be in for at least one more turn, I think.
Yeah, you want to be able to get to 2 or 3 spell territory.
Exactly.
So that's when it's kind of battle time.
Once we get to about 7 or 8 mana, then the spells start really flying. And normally you want to maybe sandbag your Think Twices in these types of matchups a little longer so you don't have to discard, but these recent builds, and especially we have these deck lists here, we know they have so many dead cards. Ooh, an aggressive Sphinx's Revelation here. Now, if Ross had a Syncopate there, that would have been like pretty bad for him. And now he has to discard. That was pretty aggro.
I mean, maybe he felt he really needed to find some cards. He's got plenty of cards that he thinks he can discard. You see him discarding a Supreme Verdict.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, was that there's so many cards that are not actually that good in this matchup. Like the Turn Burns, the Pillars, the Supreme Verdicts. You have enough semi-dead cards that sort of looting with your Think Twices isn't that bad. And I guess looting with your Revelation isn't too bad either at this stage of the game.
I think Karrigan's thought process on that turn too is, okay, what's the worst thing that Ross can do if I Revelate for 3 and tap out here? Like, yes, he can Syncopate it, which would be kind of annoying, okay? But what's the worst thing he can do? Like, is he really going to tap out for an Aetherling with just 6 mana?
No way.
Because then he can just walk in like Verdict or Snapcaster Verdict, or a bevy of other things, Detention Spear, blah, 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 Turn Burn, we can go on and on. Whereas, I think if Ross had 6 mana, and then is going into 7, he doesn't make that play because then he can stick Aetherling with a blue up.
For sure. I mean, when the worst that they can do after you red for 3 is red for 3 themselves, and then they're tapped out while you're going to 7.
Yep.
Like, that's an ideal situation.
So you see Merriam's going to cast the thing twice. Karrigan plays a Restoration Angel in the meantime. He's going to slide that 3/4 in there. 4 toughness being pretty important in this matchup. Puts a lot of pressure on War Leader's Helix to kind of show up here.
Once again, the pillar being discarded, not that great. If you have 2, you can take down the Angel, but, you know, the card on its own is pretty low impact, while every other card, all the lands are too important, all the card drawing, all the counter spells, and all of the more diversified removal, the instant speed removal that can kill more stuff is way more important. So pillar, you know, kind of just glanced over, not a big deal to discard that.
Now you saw Ross was the first one to miss a land drop here. Is he gonna flashback the in twice? He's gonna cycle Azorius Charm. Shields are down. Does not
Shields
get
are
punished.
back up.
Draws Clifftop Retreat and Sulfur Fall. So now he's gonna be able to start hitting land drops again and try to quote unquote catch up. Question for you from Karrigan's side. You see this defense come into play tapped. I know at the Pro Tour when I was doing coverage, talking with Zvi Malshevich, talking with Ben Stark and a couple other players, Nassif as well, a lot of those guys were just saying, the life total doesn't really matter all that much. So I'm just going to put them to play untapped so I can just represent many different things.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said at the beginning was when you have to play those lands untapped, that kind of turns your hand face up. But when you don't have to, but do it untapped anyway, then you're actually concealing information and giving misinformation. I actually think, ooh, pitching a land there. I actually think hand pitching with Sphinx is rare. Wow, this game is weird. Yeah, so, you know, having the access to the extra mana, you can really mask what you have. Your opponent doesn't really know what to play around, and as you said, the life total doesn't matter as much. The 8-point chunks in block were really important for Aetherling attacks, but even here, the 8-point chunks aren't as important because there's so many more cards that the player can't go all in on an Aetherling attack every single turn necessarily. Not to mention you can gain life back with like a life-linked Azorius Charm or like a War Leader's Helix. You know, there's other ways to sort of deal with that. So we're gonna see more of this sort of revelation-y endgame. But you know, with H.A. Karrigan willing to discard a land over, say, a Supreme Verdict, whereas Ross discarding Sphinx's Revelation, I mean, I have to assume he has at least one more, if not one more, and you know, another or a Snapcaster.
Yeah.
But you know, even when you have more revelations, having multiple is good to sort of use as bait. You know, instant speed the rest is to get your opponent sort of run them out of counters. But it doesn't look like that's what's going to happen here. Instead, we're going to play a more creature-based sort of mid-game transitioning into the Aetherling endgame rather than one pivoting solely on Revelation.
Now this is kind of interesting here because now we've got Merrian casting a Restoration Angel, willing to blink the Augur Bolt, get a little bit of card advantage. Karrigan looks like he's going to make a move here, and he's going to cast a War Leader's Helix on that Restoration Angel because he doesn't want that in the way. The point that I was going to bring up is that you look at Karrigan's deck list, he does have 4 War Leader's Helix, and he has 2 of them in his hand, so he could do what we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, is where those Pillar of Flames actually get some value, being able to shoot, and then, you know, he can plank a little bit with Restoration Angels and then go, yeah, Helix you, snap Helix you, a play that you had brought up a couple rounds ago.
Yeah, exactly. When in addition to having to worry about you know, counter magic for your Sphinx's Revelation, when you also have to worry about just being burned out,
yeah,
it's threatening. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to sort of play around and watch out for.
So you see that trade of resources there. Ross tries to rewind the War Leader's Helix. That gets dissipated by Karrigan. The blink on the Augur Bolt is going to resolve. It's going to give Merriam and Azorius Charm, and for the moment, Karrigan's defense are a little bit down, as he only does have 3 mana, so if Ross does have the ability to resolve an Aetherling here, it could be okay, but it wouldn't be great, because again, his life total is only at 9 right now.
I was going to say, this is one of the situations where Revelation would actually be better than Aetherling, because of the life and being able to pull back into the game cards-wise so that you can exchange with your opponent's burn, which AJ's now turned into threats. But instead he does go for the Aetherling.
Yep. Maybe, and we're going to see a Dissipate and we're going to see a Syncopate. So now you see Ross basically saying, I need this Aetherling to be in play, and Ross does it in such a way that he has exactly 1 blue mana available for the blink ability, so that Aetherling is likely not going anywhere now. So now Karrigan's kind of, I don't want to say he's like on the back foot, but I think he wants to get this game over with now.
Yeah, and I mean, he's pretty dry, it looks like he's actually going to have to main phase Lighthouse here. That's how... Oh, no, he's going Jace. All right,
Okay.
that works too.
So Jace Architect Thought's going to show up. I think we're going to see, we're going to go up or down?
It's got to go down.
We're going to go down. So
Too
we're
far
going to take a
behind
look at
facing
3
the
cards.
Aetherling.
Okay.
Those are some pretty good ones.
Yeah, chop that up. Aetherling in one, Sphinx Revelation and Sacred Foundry in the other. What do you take?
It's got to be Aetherling. Your opponent's life total is so low. And, you know, you have your window to cast it right here.
Now, I'm not sure if Karrigan has made a land drop this turn
I
yet.
don't believe he has.
Yeah, I don't believe he has either.
If he has, then it's closer. I think it's still Aetherling, but by a much closer margin. But I don't think he's played his land drop, and I think that makes it a clear Aetherling here.
So Sacred Foundry and Sphinx are going to go to the bottom. Here comes Restoration Angel. Going to knock Merriam down to 6.
And then slam Big Daddy Loon.
Yeah, so there's your mountain. There's your land for the turn. And like Merriam, Karrigan has 1 land available in Steam Vents to be able to use Aetherling and let it go into hiding.
Yeah. The thing is, Ross has a couple. He just drew another Azorius Charm, and Azorius Charm is like the sort of race changer in the Aetherling mirrors, because either you can play it on your opponents and put it on top, which then they blank it out in response, so they miss an attack, or you can just give your own lifelink.
Yep.
To negate a full attack. So even though Ross's life total is much, much lower, he actually has the better cards, the better tools available to him, and a couple of Azorius Charms and a Revelation that he's been holding for quite a while. Whereas we've seen AJ's hand, and it's not too impressive. It's like a Verdict and 2 lands or something like that.
He's basically on empty right now. I think he may have a Verdict, as you said, a land or 2 in his hand. What he's got on the table is basically what he's got to work with. You see Merriam reaching. He's going to give this Aetherling unblockable. He's going to come on in. See if he's going to take out Jace or not. All right, so he's going to pump, it looks like.
Yeah, just hit for 5, and then Revelation probably.
See him reaching for mana. This
I don't know why you
Revelation.
would hit for 5 if you were revving. The math doesn't work out.
21 down to 16.
I guess that's 2 Aetherling hits, but that's...
And those are those 8-pointers that you talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So that looks like what he was going for, but I don't know if he can actually... I guess he just revs for... No, he can't because he has the charm. So it's a rough spot, actually.
And now this makes it even rougher because now you see Karrigan, he Jaces again. And now you see a Hollow Fountain, a Pillar Flame, and Azorius Charm, a card that's playing a huge role on Merriam's side, now gets to play a huge role on Karrigan's side. And this Jace activation, the last one took a little while for Karrigan to decide. I think Karrigan realizes the importance of Azorius Charm in this situation because he has to worry about it from Merriam's side. And if that's on his side for Merriam's side, his thought process is probably, hey, pretty good for my side
probably
too.
good, yeah, probably pretty good for me.
Yeah.
And now he's got, he's got an Azorius Charm, the Aetherling, AJ Karrigan, Azorius Charm, Ross's. Meanwhile, the Restoration Angel is actually just lethal in 2. So Ross is gonna have to, spend his mana to Revelation at some point just for the life to survive. And it looks like Ross actually going for the charm here. And sure enough, Smith probably going to blink out. I want to say that AJ Karrigan's line this game was very aggressive. He was using his counter magic on his opponent's counter spell. Ooh, he's going charm on the angel.
So I think his plan right now is to go double charm. Angel goes up top, Aetherling blinks out, and then he's going to try to just resolve a huge rev. For less about the cards and more for Stream of Life.
Yes.
Because it's basically playing as a fog for a big Aetherling.
Dawn Glow Infusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Merriam's going to draw a card. He draws a Cavern of Souls to go along with, I believe it's a Snapcaster Mage, and we're 100% sure there's a Sphinx Revelation in his hand. So now he's going to organize his mana. You see there's at least one land off screen, that Sacred Foundry you can barely see. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana in place. This is red for around 7 if he plays the Cavern 8.
Yeah, you want to hold up at least 1 for the Aetherling.
Yep.
I would say,
there could be an argument to be made to maybe hold up 2
yeah,
for the Aetherling.
I would say 1 to unblockable, just hit for 4, get your damage in, and then if AJ does something, then you can blank it out. But if he doesn't, then you only have to leave up 1 after you've already dealt the damage.
Sure.
Because most of the threats here are going to be like Azorius Charm or Snap Azorius Charm. So I think you just do that and then rev for, I guess that would make it 5.
Is 5 going to be good enough? Puts him up to 11. Aetherling gets on, I mean, it puts Aetherling on a 2-turn clock instead of a 1-turn clock. And it looks like Merrian may have just passed the turn back. Okay.
All right, well, he is going to use all of his mana then to try and Revelation for the maximum. Probably leave up 1 blue, maybe 2.
I think what we might see here is something that actually, again, I keep referencing the Pro Tour, but I got to watch so many matches there and so many Aetherling battles just like this one, where the player with the Sphinx's Rev in his hand actually just wants to cast on his opponent's upkeep so he doesn't have to discard.
Yeah. And this is actually kind of another interesting interaction is the Desolate Lighthouse for AJ actually puts the Restoration Angel into his hand immediately, so he can actually just cast it right now.
Which is actually huge.
Which is, again, as I said, lethal in 2. But this is tapped out time, so Ross gets to draw a million cards here.
Yeah, Ross put the finger up and he said, what? one second, my friend.
Please. Blue Mage has fast effects.
Yeah. You have 1 land open, I want to do something here. So now we're going to see Revelation. This Revelation is going to not tap the Cavern.
Yeah, I imagine the Cavern is going to be on Snapcaster duty.
So this is going to be a rev for, looks like 4. Augur of Bolas, Turn and Burn. Okay, a Dissipate over there as well. I don't know if this is in response to Restoration Angel or not, but Restoration Angel is good. Ross gives him the goal ahead, he passes the turn back. Again, this can be an attack that finishes the game in 1 attack because he can do the Aetherling, make it an 8-1. 8 plus 3 is 11. That would be lethal, but obviously that's very risky.
Well, AJ does have Snapcaster Mage for a counterspell there, so that would actually... If Ross used, like, Snapcaster or Azorius Charm here, he would die.
He also has it available for maybe a War Leader's Helix, too, that's down there. Now you see Karrigan pumping a little bit more.
And that's all you need. Unblockable plus 3 represents lethal.
Unblockable plus 3 makes it a 7, 8, 9, 10. Gotcha.
So now we're at the point where Ross is choked on mana because he had to cast this Revelation. Honestly, I think he should have just cast it for 3 more and made it so that AJ couldn't present lethal this turn, although he would still die to the Helix, I believe. But, I mean, the Helix is an unknown, whereas the Aetherling is a known, you know?
So there's a Snapcaster Mage on Azorius Charm. Karrigan going to play Snapcaster Mage of his own. He's going to show Ross Dissipate, and we're going to get a concession from Merriam. So Karrigan up a game in what was an aggressively played game by him.
He took a very aggressive line.
But it's kind of interesting, like, in these matches, you can take aggressive lines or you can take these more like reactive lines, and I think it depends on what you're more comfortable doing. I don't think there's one wrong or right way to play the matchup.
I agree. It also depends on how you build your deck, and the big thing here that you mentioned earlier is that AJ Karrigan does have 4, count them, 4 War Leader's Helix, and that allows you to play a lot faster, a lot more aggressively.
You can tell he has no interest in losing to these like red decks that have been winning.
Yeah.
None.
And these matchups, like, did you ever play? I mean, I know you don't because you don't play Islands, but
how could you?
There was a deck that like Waffle Topper came out with. That was like a blue, white, red control deck that had like lightning helixes and bolts and electrolysis and Snapcaster Mages and Sphinx's Revs.
Yeah. Is it modern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the mirror in that matchup was so weird because it was like a control mirror quotes, but all you were doing all game was burning each other. Like, the best card besides Sphinx's Rev, obviously, was actually Lightning Helix because it was like a 2-for-1.
Sure.
Because you're negating one of their
burn 3 damage spells. Yeah.
And like Electrolyze, which seems like it would be low impact because there's like no creatures, like sure it can nab like a Snapcaster Mage or whatever. It was actually insane because it was 2 free damage.
And it drew a card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's what mattered. Like you were, it was a control mirror, so card advantage was still king, but you were sort of instead of spending those resources like then fighting over another rev and like burying the guy because your rev resolved and his didn't. Instead of the game playing out like that, it was more like who could get to 20 as 20 damage. It was like an aggro control mirror. Not an aggro control mirror, but
it's like
aggro control mirror. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like a counter burn mirror.
Yeah.
But like instead of like your traditional like just blue red counter burn mirror from years past that had like prophetic bolts and stuff like that, like your counter spell is actually Sphinx's Revelation because that counters like 2 bolts and a helix.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's this like X counter spell that's insane.
Yeah.
Instead, so it's like a really roundabout way of looking at it, and that's kind of what you see here too. Is that these War Leader helixes can go to the dome, but they can just be trumped pretty easily by just like, oh, big rev, I don't care about that.
Exactly. So that is exactly what the parallel I was drawing. Is the helix. The way to play this matchup with the helixes is sort of like the way that modern deck played. Even though you're like a control deck and you can create an insane amount of card advantage with Sphinx's Revelation, you're actually you're expending those resources on a very different level than what your opponent is capable of answering, right? Like if instead of a helix you had like a creature, they have removal for a creature. If you were trying to use like to play more lands, they can make their own land drops. If you were trying to use Aetherling, they have their own Aetherling, or counter magic for your 6-mana sorcery. But when you have this instant speed thing, and as you saw in that game, if you get your opponent's life total low enough, you've now turned your helixes into must counters.
Yeah, which is like ideal.
Yes,
if you can do that.
You want to have more must counters than your opponent because then you're going to run them out of counters. If you can get them to the point where they have to counter your helixes, then your Aetherlings, your Sphinx's Revelations, those are all going to resolve. And so that's sort of the line that AJ took that game. And I think the big pivotal turn in that game, which we saw, was when Ross tried to play a Restoration Angel to block AJ Karrigan's. I think Ross was at like 12.
Mm-hmm.
With the War Leader's Helix, normally, like Jerry, with his build and the way that he plays, I guarantee you that Helix would have pointed at the Augur, not the Angel.
Sure.
You're preventing the Augur trigger, let the Angels run into each other, keep playing a long game, don't let them get the advantage off the Augur, find a counter for your Rev or Rev of their own.
Sure.
That's not the way Angel played it. He went Helix straight for the Angel that was threatening to block, and a counter backup. He countered a rewind on his Helix just to get his Angel through. Very, very aggressive.
Yeah, he just wants to keep pushing his advantage before Ross can ever catch back up. As game 2 underway here, both players are going to keep 7. You'll see Ross play a Steam Vents untapped, representing like a Syncopate, maybe a Think Twice in his hand. Looks like he does have one. Karrigan going to play a Plains along with his Steam Vents. Merriam going to cycle an Azorius Charm. So a little bit of velocity. Players, again, were at the opening stage of this game. They just want to hit their land drops. Yep. That's what matters the most. And the one thing that happened in that game, too, that we can kind of highlight, as you see Merrian play a Cavern of Souls, and we'll find out what it's naming in just a moment for you guys. But you can kind of highlight there that Merrian was the first one to miss his land drop.
Not only did he miss his first land drop on like turn 6 or whatever it was, also his first 2 lands came into play tapped, the buddy lands, so he wasn't able to cycle Azorius Charm or Think Twice on turn 2 to make sure that he's able to hit that land drop on 6.
Yep.
It sort of snowballed that way, and he did miss that land drop, and he definitely fell behind and definitely impacted the way that game played out.
So Cavern of Souls last turn did not name Angel, even though it does resolve. It named Shapeshifter.
What's a what kind of shapeshifter would you want to
which I don't think is too much of a surprise.
Is it a clone? Did he bring in clones?
Did he bring in the original Shapeshifter?
Is it Vesuvian? What happens if you morph it off of a cavern? Is that a thing?
That's a good question. I don't know the rules. We'll have to get a hold of Sheldon.
Okay.
So here comes Restoration Angel again, and now Ross is kind of being your aggressor this time. You see AJ, he's got a Turn and Burn in his hand. He's also got a War Leader's Helix. He's going to try to take care of that. And again, this is a card that I think we're going to see. It's going to see a lot of play moving forward now, but I'm very excited to see what this card does when we have like the rotation, Innistrad moving out,
for sure,
and really see how this thing lines up against aggressive strategies and maybe counter burn strategies and stuff like that, because it's already looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we sat here for a good 2 minutes listing cards that are paired off well against, and we just didn't even name Angel.
Yeah,
it's just like another perfect, perfect exchange for the Helixing player. So it looks like AJ's in threatening to miss a land drop, so he actually has to rev here. And Ross actually decides not to counter it there if it's only for 2, right?
Yeah, it's a baby revelation just for 2. Is it worth fighting over that one? Maybe I'll save my counter magic for a bigger revelation, maybe your Aetherlings, what have you. It's a risk. Do you actually want to counter a divination?
Yeah, exactly. And if you use your counter there and he just draws a land or like a Think Twice, and like is able to make his land drops, then you're basically just down a counter.
Yeah.
Whereas letting divination resolve and focusing on hitting your own land drops is more important.
Well, we'll see Merriam. He plays a Clifftop Retreat. He's got 8 mana in play, so he's not having trouble hitting his lands right now. Doesn't look like he has a lot of action in his hand. I think we see a Dissipate, a Turn Burn over there, a couple other spells. Don't know if he has another land to play, but it looks like Karrigan's the one that's having a little bit of difficulty hitting lands this game, but he did just draw one. And you do see a Cavern of Souls over there as well. So the fun thing here is like, okay, let's say for, like, create a hypothetical, Karrigan has the Cavern and he has an Aetherling. Do you just slam it down? You name Cavern, you play Cavern, name Shapeshifter, you slam down Aetherling with the blue mana open? You know, the window, I mean, it's going to resolve, but is it worth it to do that right now?
Wow. Ghost Quarter on Cavern before he can get it out there. I mean, AJ's already sort of behind on lands here. I mean, he was behind, if he just made a land drop normally, he would have been behind 1 land. And then once Ross makes his next land drop 2 again. But by Ghost Quarter in there, he's now down 2, going on being down 3.
Yep.
That's the point where you're at a situation where it's like, nigh unwinnable if the other opponent's hand is like, you know, spellful. If they're on any sort of gas and you're down 3 lands in the control mirror, then it's a pretty rough spot. But AJ, that's scared of the Aetherling to spend his Ghost Quarter.
Scared too, as we see a baby revelation here from Ross. And you know what used to be the big deal in these blue-white-red decks is that your revelation chained into another revelation, chained into a biggest revelation. That's what it was. It was big to bigger to biggest revelation, and then your opponent just couldn't come back from that. And so we see like the baby revelation here from Merriam, and I feel like Merriam right now is trying to bait AJ into something. Because he left 3 mana up, so it shows to me that like I have a counter spell. I'm willing to fight over this, and he has negate of his own.
The fact that he left up 3 when his counter was negate, also very strange.
Now we're going to see Snapcaster. Now we're going to see Snapcaster Mage, and now we're going to see Snapcaster Mage on negate. So he's going to counter that.
All right, so Ross untaps and plays Aetherling and wins.
He has Aetherling in his. I mean, he has Aetherling in his hand, and he's reaching.
Yep.
So so he get out the fishing line. Reel you right in. Aetherling with 3 mana open.
The full hooks. He got him.
And Karrigan going to play a Clifftop Retreat here, and now Karrigan knows, he's like, I got to do something. And he has to pass the turn back here, and now Aetherling is going to reign supreme, because in the last game, AJ, we at least had Aetherlings dueling against each other, and that's pretty difficult, but when one has one and the other doesn't, right-click hello and good luck on Magic Online.
It is definitely a tough spot. It's at the point where AJ basically has to get a revelation off into his own Aetherling.
Yes.
And have like the tempo busters in things like Azorius Charm and Turn Burn to sort of fog an Aetherling for a turn so that he can get ahead in the race.
So here's a Snapcaster Mage. That's going to cast a Revelation for 2 yet again, so just a little baby.
Step 1, you know, he's getting there.
See Merriam taking a look at his hand. He has Turn and Burn, Dissipate, and Snapcaster Mage in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. After you let the first Rev for 2 go and like resolve the Aetherling, I can't imagine the second Rev for 2 is where you're like, this is where I take my stand.
Yeah,
you know?
I draw my line here.
Yeah.
So here comes Snapcaster Mages. That's an attack for 4.
I will say, one of the cool cards in trying to race an Aetherling would be the War Leader's Helix. Being able to tag for 4 and negate half of an Aetherling attack.
It can mess up the math a lot. It really can. So you see Karrigan reaching from lands here. 6. This looks like an Aetherling to me. That's what that is. I think that's worth fighting over.
Yeah, I would probably counter that. You know,
I don't play blue very much, but here's a Snapcaster Mage. I actually like the sequencing by Ross too, because I think what his plan is, so he's gonna rev. I thought he might Snapcaster Mage targeting his negate, so he's fine with this resolving. This is surprising.
Well, it's his rev is he thinks that his rev is gonna push him far enough ahead that he can win the Aetherling race. And if AJ Karrigan counters the Sphinx's rev, then he's tapped out, and his Aetherling is exposed to the turn burn. And AJ does neither. He just kills a Snapcaster.
Yeah.
Tapping out, exposing his Aetherling, and not dealing with the rev, which was, you know, the threat that Ross was sort of using as bait there. And so I can't imagine that this turn is going to end with AJ Karrigan's Aetherling still in play.
I mean, again, we've kind of. I don't want to say that we're questioning Ross Merrian's playing some negative way. I think they're just very interesting plays that we're trying to dissect. And you know, it could just be something as simple as I think Ross just like kind of has AJ read a little bit here because his plays seem very strange. But then like as you see him move forward, it's like, oh, this play is awesome because now like he got everything that he wanted. Now he brings out the Aetherling. Now it's back on defense and he has a bunch of mana again.
Yeah, I mean the way that AJ played game 1, it makes sense the way that Ross played game 2.
Yes.
Right? Like the helix line that he took with the low rev, aggressive revelation for 3 main phase when Ross was tapped low into the second, he's picked up on the very aggressive nature that AJ plays the deck with, and is sort of capitalizing it here on game 2 in the way that he sequences his threats.
He's going to catch the restoration, so it looks like in response to the Aetherling or just at the end
I think
of
it was just that step, yeah.
But Aetherling's going to resolve, and again, Ross has a Dissipate in his hand, but I think, again, he realizes that Aetherling is not that important from Karrigan, again, because Ross is ahead right now.
Yeah, he's just got AJ dead in 2 turns.
Yeah, I don't have to make a move because he can't kill me in 2 turns, and if he can kill me in 2 turns, Dissipate's going to make sure that whatever he's planning to kill me with is just going to get countered.
Yeah. Yeah, he has sculpted this game very, very well for himself, and he looks in complete control here. Just trying to figure out the mana of like how much to leave up for his turn, but also get in the most damage I can this turn so that I don't have to pump as much next turn, so that I can leave up more mana for the counters on the next attack for any Azorius Charm shenanigans or what have you. So figures it out, decides that this is the right number, and with AJ at 5. That is, it's a pretty rough spot.
Yeah,
right?
Like, the definition of a rough spot.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Even if you somehow get through Ross's counter wall to prevent the Aetherling to hit that turn, you still have to get back past the Aetherling, plus the Aetherling's coming back down for another lethal attack the next turn, and the Angel's going to be lethal that turn. Whew.
I thought this Jace memory deck. I thought that Jace memory deck might be Jace Information Seeker, which is just like mill you for 10, see the 10 cards, pick it up. But instead he just mills for 1. I'm not entirely sure what he was looking for to get himself out of that situation.
Oh, just an Azorius Charm or something
Sure.
to try and buy another turn.
Sure. And Ross obviously had that covered with the with the Dissipate in his hand. So we're going to see these players move on to game number 3 here. We didn't get to go over sideboards before game number 2 because game number 1 was so interesting with how Karrigan and Merrian played. So we'll take a look at them right now. Karrigan's going to be on the play. So what do you got?
Let's see here. Pillar obviously no good. Purify, while it does have applications with Snapcaster, it's not necessarily where you want to be. I've definitely brought in 1 in the past, but I don't know. Verdict not that great. Psychic Spiral really not where you want to be either. That's more for Nephalia Drownyard decks. 1 Jace memory deck we just saw there, obviously that's going to come in. 2 negates, those are obviously coming in. Renounce the Guilds, is it Staticaster, don't really do anything. Assembled Legion's an interesting one because while theoretically it's okay, it's also like a sorcery speed thing that like your opponent can just lead into Aetherling, and it doesn't actually do that much in those Aetherling style games.
Yep.
So I'm not sure, like, you would think Assemble would be for this type of matchup, but it doesn't actually seem that great.
It creates like its own sub-game, right?
Yeah.
Like if it resolves, then like we're playing an entirely different game altogether, but Aetherling trumps that game.
Yeah.
But you could also just be playing the game in such a way where we saw Karrigan be aggressive, and it's another card that allows him to be aggressive, where he's just like throwing haymakers at you and saying, like, you better have Dissipate or Negate, man, or like this is going to create a sub-game that you probably don't want to play with me.
Yeah, and that seems like that's all that AJ's really doing. He's just like, all right, Restoration Angel beat down sub-game. All right, like, Burn Range, Helix, Snapcaster, subgame.
Yep.
All right, like aggro, rev, try and get you dead. Okay, now we're into the Aetherling mode. He's basically not letting Ross get to the sort of comfortable Revelation Mirror type of scenario that we've come to know.
Yep.
The very normal Flash Revelation Mirror type of mid to late game is just not happening, because of the way that AJ is really taking the reins and just going as aggressive as possible and sort of forcing Ross to do the same if he wants to stay in it.
Quickly looking at Merriam's sideboards, these players are going to decide if they're going to keep their 7. 3 Renounce the Guilds, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Dispel, 2 Jace Memoriata, 2 Negate, 1 Pillar, 1 Supreme Verdict, and then 2 Cavern Souls. So he has 1 Cavern Souls in his main, 2 in his sideboard, so he could potentially be boarding up to 28 lands here.
With 3 caverns.
Yeah, with 3 caverns to make sure that he A, never misses a land drop, and B, always has a cavern to name Shapeshifter with to force through Aetherling.
I mean, that seems like the best plan possible right now, right? With the way that these decks are being built. To go, because it's all about making the land drop is like the most important thing for the first 8 turns of the game, and then all that matters is Aetherling.
Yep.
So you might as well bring in more lands to make those land drops that are then awesome with Aetherling. it follows.
So now we see Augur of Bolas come in. It finds Merrian with Think Twice. Karrigan's going to play a Cavern of Souls, and this is a little bit telling when this is your third land drop. Again, if you're Merrian, you have to be thinking maybe he doesn't have another land in his hand. This is pretty good for me.
Yeah, basic plains into Cavern as two of your lands is like, I don't know, that's pretty indicative that you're and like no cycling, no Azorius Charms.
There's him passing the turn back. Yeah,
you read him cold. I mean, very rarely will a player who has a different land to play choose to play their Cavern that early.
And now you're going to see a Think Twice there from Ross. Steam Vent's into play tapped. Augur comes across. We might see another pass here from Karrigan. You see multiple War Leaders Helixes in his hand. Think Twice. Going to get hard cast this turn.
Yeah, plays it from his hand so that the Purifying. I was just talking about how that might be brought in. Actually, that's kind of funny because since Ross was like playing around having to discard, his Think Twice actually got tagged by the Purify that otherwise wouldn't have.
Yep.
But still correct in my mind. I mean, you have plenty of time. You're not under any pressure. You got all the mana in the world. Just have the bonus cards. Now that we're post board, you don't have all these like pillars and stuff, these bad cards that you can just cycle away. All your cards are pretty good, so you just want to use the front side of your Think Twice until you spend a card and are down to 6 cards in hand, and then you can flash back.
Sure. In comes the Augur of Bolas again. Karrigan did find the land finally in his Steam Fence, and he did play untapped, but Ross is slowly chipping away here at his life total. Again, these Augur of Bolas points don't really matter in the abstract, but when we get to turn 10 or turn 11, we're already in we're in double Aetherling 8-point attack, or we're at 7-point attacks right now. So again, Aetherling has the ability to close out a game very quickly, but now it just makes it that much easier to close it out when they're underneath 16. That's the big difference.
Absolutely. And if you didn't know that Age of Karrigan was in trouble already, he cycled Sphinx's Revelation on that end step to make this land drop. Really desperation.
4 mana draw card. Is that Last Thoughts?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
No, Last Thoughts is way better than that. This is definitely desperation mode for AJ Karrigan. He has drawn a couple lands. He is coming out of it. But Ross, still with a hand full of cards, still a bunch of lands and a bunch of gas spells.
And there's a pretty big land there. Desolate Lighthouse.
Yep.
Now Merrian can kind of filter his lands a little bit as Karrigan is beginning to hit his land drops. He's up to 7 lands. Merrian has 8 lands, but Merrian's very happy with his hand right now. So you see no Desolate Lighthouse activation. Yeah. You see no shields being put down.
No Lighthouse activation. No flashback of the Think Twice. Yeah. He's just chilling, making his land drops, saying like, "Hey, I got this guy. Like you're low on life. You're gonna have to do something before I do."
Yeah. Basically forcing Karrigan at some point. How low are you willing to go?
Yeah.
From this Augur of Bolas. Now here's Warlord. I think we just answered that question. The answer is 12. That's as low as I'm willing to go. And it's kind of funny, Merrian for his turn drew Restoration Angel.
Chooses not to use it. That's very interesting. Could have saved 4 life, gotten on board, and an Augur trigger. That not good enough?
I mean, I don't play blue very much or very well, but I would have pulled the trigger, and you see him play it at a turn here. So, maybe he just decided I don't ever want my shields down on your turn. Like, I want access to all of my mana on your turn.
Sure.
Coming across for 3 now. I think this is going to put... I think we missed the 4-point life swing, so it should be 16 down to 13, I think, is the life total.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But that is still... another Helix. What now? You can't rest out. A rest out. So I assume this is going to resolve. You're not going to spend a counter on that. So Age of Karrigan somewhat stable. Might be down a little in the resource department, but I mean, he's got the time now.
I think he's just trying to get stable. I think he's done a pretty good job of it. And I wouldn't say he's ahead by any means. I don't even think we're on parity yet, but he's catching up a little bit here. Here's your Augur of Bolas. 1, 2, and 3. I think they're all going. Nope. Okay. Dissipate's not bad.
Yeah.
It kind of stinks for Karrigan that Merrian knows that.
Yeah.
Giving away the information. Now it's something that Merrian can play around in his planning.
Yeah, it's like revealing a Force of Will to your Delver flip or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is embarrassing, but you got to do what you got to do.
But attack you for 3.
Yeah.
Basically. All right, so we're going to see some mana get tapped here.
Yeah, this looks like a Revelation. Leaving 3 up.
Yep. And, this might be him trying to induce again a little bit. Now that he knows the Dissipate's over there.
Yep. But Rev for 4 is at the point where it's like, if you counter it, then it's, you know, I have this mana advantage on my own turn, and if you don't counter it, I draw 4 cards!
Yeah. So the Rev for 4 is going to resolve. You see Merrian draws a Dissipate for his turn. Couple of cards at that Revelation. Going to play a Glacial Fortress. Looks like he's looking at about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like maybe 9 cards in his hand.
Why can't I hold all these answers?
Yeah. Where's his Reliquary Tower? I think that thing's still legal. That should be a nice little singleton in this deck.
Zvi was talking about playing that in Kunio Bant for a while.
Yeah, baby.
The Elixir of Immortality deck.
Give me a one of. It's just Merriam's going to discard a Snapcaster Mage and a Turn and Burn.
Jeez, when you're discarding Snapcaster Mage,
your hand's probably pretty good.
I mean, AJ does have the Purify there, but like, it still like forces him to use it, and you still have the 2/1, like, and you know it's going to get another Snapcaster later.
Yep. Ross getting a little deeper into his deck. He's going to untap. He's going to draw. You see him draw Zori's Charm for the turn. And for Merriam right now, I think he's looking for literally 1 card.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
which is Aetherly. That's all he wants.
Discard again.
Discarding a land. In for 1 comes Karrigan. You know, before we didn't see him activating Desolate Lighthouse. Now we do. Now it's pretty clear that like his hand is like pretty good, but he just wants one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, earlier he had the Augur and he had like an Angel in his hand. He had pressure, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't activating the Lighthouse because his hand was awesome and he had pressure. Now his hand is still awesome, but he doesn't have the pressure. So he's willing to activate there and try and get a little deeper and look for that threat. And he did hit a Restoration Angel, so that could be coming on the next end step.
The Cycle of Zori's Charm main phase. There's a Sacred Foundry. That's going to come into play. He's deciding. It looks like he's going to play tap and just pass the turn with 7 in hand.
Doesn't want to go down all the way down to 21.
Yeah, that would be a shame.
Yeah.
Here's a Snapcaster Mage from Karrigan.
So AJ Karrigan has reached AJ Karrigan mode. This is where the aggression begins. He knows that he can't, you know, sit around forever with that Cavern on Shapeshifter and a handful of cards. He's got to do something. He's got to make it so that Ross feels he has to exchange resources, at least at an equal rate, if not, you know, trading down to stay alive. If AJ can force that to happen, then he has a chance. But, I mean, Ross's life total is too high. His hand is too good. He's got Ambush, Angel, like...
I mean, it's certainly going to be difficult, but you can tell that Karrigan has played these games in the same vein. If he plays this deck much more aggressively, and truth be told, he might be more comfortable playing this deck aggressively than playing it like super reactive. I mean, I know myself as I'm more of an aggressive player. I'd be much more comfortable playing this deck aggressively than reactive. It's just not something I'm comfortable doing. Yeah, I mean, you're much more comfortable playing reactive Magic, I think.
Exactly. It's like the Joel Larson versus Jerry T style thing from Pro Tour Gatecrash.
Yeah.
You know, very, like, similar decks, but very different play styles, and the individual card choices reflected that.
In for 3 comes the Angel from Merriam. Karrigan going to take 3, move down to, I believe it's going to be 18. As we see Ross again kind of going through his hand. He's happy, he's going to pass the turn back. Karrigan going to cast the thing twice, going to untap. He's going to take a draw step. It's a Sulphur Falls for our penguin-beaked friend. And here comes Augur of Bolas for 1. So we got 17-18 on the score. But again, who's more ahead here? I still think it leans towards Merriam, even though, again, it feels like it's getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, if you walked into this game without watching the first few turns, you might say that it's even. It looks even. I would say that Ross is slightly ahead because he's got the Cavern, he's got the Lighthouse, and he's just had more time to sculpt his hand, whereas AJ Karrigan has, you know, slightly less at his disposal. He's got, I think, Twice in the Yard, which is good, and Purify the Grave in the Yard, which theoretically has value. But he's got like a card, he's got an Assembled Legion in hand, which like isn't that great here. Yep. He's got a Negate in hand, which isn't that great here. Like, I don't know, just like his overall card quality is a lot lower, and he's like down 3 or 4 lands in play, including that key one in the form of the Cavern on Shapeshifter. I would still give the edge to Ross, but it is definitely a lot closer than you would think it would be.
So Karrigan's going to flashback and think twice first, then he's going to hardcast 1. He plays his land for the turn in the form of Clifftop Retreat. And again, you see some of the cards in his hand. You see a Snapcaster Mage. You see that Negate, the Assembled Legion, a couple other options there for him. Looks like he has 7 in his hand. He's going to pass the turn back. Merriam going to flashback and think twice on Karrigan's end step. There's a Jace Memory Adept, so there's another way to go about trying to win. Might be time to have a little fight over this, you think?
It's possible. I mean, I don't know how much Ross is willing to fight over it, but AJ Karrigan definitely has the counter here.
Yeah, this isn't a thing where, we've seen AJ on the last turn when Merriam cast a Sphinx Revelation for 4, where Karrigan had to negate, and he just said, that's fine.
Yeah.
This might be a situation where this is not fine.
Yeah, this is much scarier than a Revelation. And it's like one of the few uses you're actually going to get out of your negate at this point in the game, so I feel like you have to use it. And even though Ross's hand is awesome, he might want to trade down some resources here. I actually think that this might not be something to fight over. I guess Dispel kind of has, some limited... Although it's so much cleaner, like so much easier on the mana when you're on that Shapeshifter plan, the Aetherling plan. I don't know if I fight there with Ross. And if I do fight, maybe Dissipate, not Dispel.
The other thing, too, is by letting one of these counter spells resolve,
Wow, Ross is fighting back again.
by letting one of these counter spells resolve, it turns on Snapcaster to be able to get counter spells, too. So if we're going to have this big battle, now the Snapcasters are turned on, you're going to see another negate Dissipate here from Ross. So Ross has decided that this is my premier threat in this game. This is the way I want to go about winning. Here's a Dissipate from Karrigan targeting the other Dissipate. So now we're going to set our stack up real good.
Get some Moto stack going. I feel like this is uncharacteristic impatience from Ross. I mean, he's played the rest of this game very, very well, but this seems a little aggressive from him. And I think that it's just because he's maybe a little frustrated that he hasn't found an Aetherling in all of these cards.
Yep, Purify the Grave.
Oh, did Ross
I guarantee he forgot about the Purify because I forgot about the Purify the Grave. So now here's a rewind. There's a Dissipate from Karrigan.
So now Ross does not have a Jace and is tapped out.
And after all those resources are exchanged, Restoration is going to come across. It's going to knock Karrigan down to 12. And now we need to see what Karrigan has. Is there any way he can punish Merrian?
He has a Revelation and an Assembled Legion. So whichever direction he chooses, I think it's got to be Revelation. And he's counting.
Yeah, you saw the triple count 3 times.
Although he's tapping red-white.
Well, to be fair, he can resolve Assembled Legion right now and rev for like 1, 2, 3. He can rev for 4 or 5. So there's Assemble because I feel like honestly, if you're carrying, at some point you have to get this online.
I mean, it's in your deck. If you boarded it in, you have it in your sideboard and you boarded it in, you obviously think it's good. You're obviously gonna play it.
Yeah, right? And you've drawn it, and like his shields are down. It's like, all right, like if not now, when?
Yeah, No, I definitely agree with that, but like it's so scary to get Aetherlings here.
If Karrigan had an Aetherling, he'd certainly be the one doing the Aetherling.
Yeah.
Aetherlinging, I guess, is what it is. As here comes the Restoration Angel again. It's going to knock Karrigan down to 9. You guys see in the middle of the screen, ticking down as well. 418, 417, 416 goes the clock. I think these players are going to be able to finish this game in time, as Merriam's going to play a Hollow Fountain and then play Untap and move down to 19. But again, it's a very realistic concern right now.
Yes.
But Assembled Legion is pretty good at closing out a game slowly but surely.
Yeah, I mean, it just had a pretty low life. Either player at any point gets an Aetherling. The game ends like in the 5 turns.
Clock don't matter then.
Yeah.
You see Merriam's hand right now. Of those cards, he has a Dissipate and a Sphinx's Revelation in his hand. I think Rev is probably the more important of the two because we're probably going to see a big Rev coming. But I think, there might be of equal importance. And, okay, Dissipate's more important now.
Yes.
Dissipate is going to target that Aetherling. And the Cavern of Souls that's in play for Karrigan is not on Shapeshift.
It is Wizard.
And that was from his early mana troubles that we saw long ago. It feels like that was a different game when we saw that.
But I mean, even though he was down.
Boy. Wow. So here's a Snapcaster Mage. And again, this lines up with his aggressive nature all along with the way he's played this game. Snapcaster Mage on Dissipate, targeting Dissipate, negate for Merriam.
Well, I was saying that maybe Ross shouldn't have been fighting last turn, but I guess he had plenty left over. That it was fine for him to do that because not only did he have 2 counters there, he also has a giant Revelation.
Yes. So now it's time to draw 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
He was counting his library last turn, and I thought for a second that it was just this. I thought he was just seeing how unlucky he was getting to not draw anything. But I guess he was just trying to make sure he didn't deck himself with that Revelation.
Yeah, he just stepped on the Time Crisis pedal. Reload. Yeah, That's what he just did.
Reload.
And now he's coming across for 3. Rev is going to completely reload his hand. There's a Sulfur Pulse. He's got 8 cards in his hand right now. And oddly enough, he may be bemoaning his own luck. Still no Aetherling, and passes the turn back.
He didn't play Jace there?
I'm a little bit surprised by that, yeah, because I do see that Jace Memory Adept in his hand. You see a Negate, you see a Syncopate, and another Rev in his hand. But like you, I'm a little bit surprised not to see Jace just get windmilled there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, like, Assemble's not getting any smaller, you know, like. You can theoretically, if you plus Jace and like block the Snapcaster Mage on this attack with your own Snapcaster Mage, then Jace goes to 1 if you attack it with everything. So you get 2 activations out of it if you plus it the first time.
So here's another Restoration Angel, and this might be the reason he did that, is because he has another Restoration Angel, he has 2 counter spells in his hand, and one of them is Syncopate, so he wants to just be able to have a large Syncopate. Now, I can certainly see an argument for just casting that Jace and putting a different type of pressure on Karrigan.
Looks like
he's going to try to Rev, we're going to see a Negate, and we're going to see an extension of the hand.
Is
Ross Merriam defeats AJ Karrigan in a blue-white-red flash mirror in, I think, games that were played very well from both sides, honestly.
Yeah, both players took really unique lines, actually.
Yeah.
I would say that game, besides the mana troubles, the real nail in the coffin there for AJ was the Sphinx's Revelation for 4 from Ross.
Okay.
Where AJ let it resolve, which seems reasonable, and like